Ira, great to see you, brother. I am very happy that we did this quickly because the last time we spoke to you, it was sad. It was somber, and I didn't really like the headspace that we're in. And I think that we have all ripped the Band-Aid off. We're sprinting forward. You got our guy, Thomas Castellanos, as your QB1, who's actually on this episode as well. You'll hear from him in a second, guys. And I think there's some juice and there's some excitement at Florida State right now. You guys were able to go to practice. They lifted the iron gates. You ran in there. So great to see you, brother. And I guess just tell us about the scrimmage that you're able to see.
Yeah, it was their second spring scrimmage. It was, a full scrimmage, about 100 plays. They rotated 3 quarterbacks. Tommy Castellanos obviously was, the guy most people wanted to look at. Brock Glenn is also, in the mix there at quarterback. And then they have a freshman, Kevin Sperry, who came in out of Texas, was a former Oklahoma commit. That Florida State there was a quarterback shuffle there at the end. They lost a quarterback, then they picked up Kevin Sperry, and he was really impressive as well. But yeah, everybody's kind of focused on Tommy and the offense. And, I think the biggest takeaway there, and Eric, you and I talked a little bit about this off the air, was, just what a good opportunity this will be for Tommy to kind of have his own offense, an offense that's kind of geared for him. Gus Malzahn and Tommy Castellanos, it's a pretty perfect marriage when you look at what Gus wants to do on offense, what he did at UCF and Auburn, and what Tommy brings to the table. So I think that part of it was pretty cool. And, my biggest takeaway, honestly, from the scrimmage was, how it feels like this is Tommy's offense. He's the – when a play doesn't work, he's going straight to the receiver. He's going straight to the running back or the lineman. He's not like asking a coach to step in and do something. He's really taking ownership of this team. And it's kind of crazy. Florida State has had some headaches with going up against Tommy the last couple of years when he was at BC. So it's kind of cool to see him on this side. And then defensively, it's just a whole new scheme. Tony White, new defensive coordinator, comes in from Nebraska, was previously at Syracuse, another ACC tie. So it's just, again, and for one scrimmage, it was the one scrimmage we got to see. And we've heard plenty of other things, but, it was just kind of a lot to take in.
Yeah, for sure. And, we have Tommy coming up on the episode, as Max said. We talked to him about the 2 times that he beat Florida State at Boston College and how that maybe has come up in the locker room. So just stay tuned for that one. But he said, when he was looking at where to go, the thing that put him over the edge was a call from Gus Malzahn. And the fact that those two would be kind of a perfect marriage. The tempo, I'm reading stuff from Florida State, right? Like the second you go down, you're up, you're running off to the sideline. Like the tempo seems to be a point of emphasis. What else have you seen and heard, Ira, about that offense and about how Gus Malzahn is changing things?
Yeah, and the scrimmage we saw, they actually slowed down the tempo a little bit because they were pretty light on players. They were down some receivers, down some offensive linemen. So I think for that reason they couldn't go quite at the speed they had been going at. But yeah, we've been hearing the same thing. Players talk. Gus Malzahn after the first scrimmage, the biggest thing he seemed to complain about was players after making a big play not getting the ball to the official quick enough so that they can get the next play going and things like that. The things that when you don't play up tempo you don't even think about. Florida State didn't play at a fast tempo before, but it's like, man, the play's over, get the ball to the official so he can spot it so we can go. And so that has been a big point of emphasis. But yeah, Gus, I think FSU fans were a little lukewarm when Gus Malzahn was named as the hire, just because he didn't have a ton of success the last couple seasons at UCF. It started really well, kind of tailed off. I think, a lot of teams, a lot of fan bases, Florida State particularly, has always kind of had their most success with more pro-style offenses, and Gus is not perceived that way. But listen, man, they went out and got Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White at receiver. They're going to throw the ball too. They've got several nice weapons at tight end, including the tight end Pittman that he brought in from UCF. And so I think it's going to be I think there's reasons to be excited. I haven't been able to convince a lot of the FSU fans about that yet. They're still in the headspace Eric was talking about from 2 and 10. So they're taking a wait and see approach.
Yeah, we just got to flush it, man. Just move on. Let's get excited. There's a lot to be excited about. New stadium, new quarterback. There's a lot of juice that I think that will get guys ramped up and excited here. You said a couple of things here, so I have a little bit of a two-parter. I'll start with the first one, and that being around, Coach Malzahn, because I had a very similar kind of knee-jerk reaction. I was just like, okay, weird. Don't know if I love it. But then, you really dive into it and you think about it. think of the relief that this is going to take off of Mike Norvell's plate, that he can now continue to be that CEO and, be the full-time coach, because he's hiring his mentor. He's hiring his guy who, he's trying to run his offense and vice versa. So what in your opinion that you've seen or heard has that simultaneously done for Norvell?
I think it's been a huge thing for him. And I think it's probably been better for him than he realized it was going to be. I think when they made the move, it was partially, listen, man, he knew he had to make drastic changes. They were so bad. It wasn't 2-10 just because, some bad breaks. That offense was abysmal. Yeah. And, I felt like he knew he couldn't just run it back out there with some new players. And so, but I don't know if he realized. So I think his goal at the time was to fix the offense. Gus can, come in and really focus on that. But I think it's opened his eyes to how much time he can spend with players away from practice, because so much of, as a play caller, an offensive coordinator, so much of your job is preparing that game plan. And
right.
If you're not with the team, you're meeting, you're watching film, you're looking for tendencies in the other team. And so a lot of his time in the past was focused on that, especially last year, trying to figure out what was going wrong. And I think this has freed him up to, if he's watching practice and he sees a defensive back maybe having a bad day, or somebody going through, or one of the coaches says, hey, this guy's going through something, he has that time to spend time with guys individually and really kind of, iron out problems before they become things, and then also bring out things of guys that, maybe he sees a guy lacking in confidence, but they believe in him, and having those meetings. So, talking to him about that, I think he's in a better place with this than he was probably 2 or 3 months ago, because this is going to be a big adjustment for him. He's always been the offensive guy, the play caller, since he's been a head coach, and I think it has been big for him.
Yeah, it has to be. And KG, I'm going to actually shift this to you and kind of tee you up here, because when we talk with Tommy, as you guys will hear in a minute, we keep alluding to this. He said this was the most talented team that he's been on, which, KG, I know that gets a lot of people excited, and some of the guys you wanted to ask about.
Absolutely. And we'll get to defense, Ira, don't worry. But let's stick with offense.
What's that?
And I mean, Mac and I do struggle getting there. Some of the names that stand out, Squirrel White, when you look at what he did in 2023, 800-yard receiving season, he had a big game against Bama where he had 111 yards and 10 catches. Like, that was at Tennessee. And then Deuce Robinson coming from Southern Cal. Those are the names that stood out to me. What else have you seen? Like, who do you think are some of those guys that Tommy's alluding to when he talks about kind of the talent on this team?
Yeah, I think I would put the most emphasis on the receivers and tight ends.
Yeah.
The running back room, they bring in a big-time high school recruit, Usman Kroma, who was originally committed to Georgia. Florida State flipped late. He may end up being a huge part of this running game. So I think that's an incomplete picture right now. What we saw of the running game on Saturday looked fine, but it didn't look dynamic in terms of the running backs themselves. But at receiver and tight end, they have a lot of talent. Obviously, as you said, Squirrel and Deuce are a huge part of that. They also brought in a freshman from Orlando who he almost set the Florida high school's receiving record. I think he was like one catch away, maybe. Javon Boggs, really, he's an interesting guy because some schools he was committed to. I think he might have been committed to Ohio State early. The recruiting fans can get mad at me if I got that wrong, but he was committed to a big time school early. It might have been Ohio State. Ended up going back, opening up his recruitment, and UCF was very involved, and UCF ended up getting him. Malzahn got him committed at UCF, and Tim Harris Jr., the receivers coach. They come to Florida State. They get him here, and he's, from everything I hear, they've been really impressed by him. He's like a 6'1", 205 pounds, kind of a thicker kid, maybe a slot guy, but just, catches everything that comes his way. And at the scrimmage we watched, he was a big part of the passing game. They also, bring back Hakeem Williams, who was, super highly recruited coming out of high school. For one reason or another, it has not really, evolved at Florida State. He's, had a couple injuries, both years he's had some injuries, and, just came in as kind of a raw prospect, but tons of talent and ability, 6'2", 6'3", big, long wing span. But, we'll see what he does in this offense. He's a guy that I really believe for Squirrel White to be what he was 2 years ago, as you mentioned, from talking to people at Tennessee, Squirrel White was at his best when they had two great receivers outside, and he could operate inside the slot. Correct. And really kind of take advantage of those matchups. And I think last year he was a little banged up. Tennessee wasn't quite as good at receiver, and he didn't have quite the same production. they really need, I think Florida State needs another big-time receiver out wide to emerge with Deuce Robinson to let Squirrel be what he can really be. So that's kind of, they've got several other guys. They brought in a junior college transfer, Scott. They brought in a couple of other really talented young receivers. They had Luane McCoy last year as a true freshman out of South Florida, 4-star guy. So they need that other guy to emerge. I don't think, if you look at Gus's offenses, he's not usually the kind to have, 8 receivers catching a ton of balls. It's usually those big 3 or 4, and they're still trying to figure out that third one. And then at tight end, you bring back Landon Thomas, who again was an earlier Georgia commit, who Florida State flipped, had a really nice freshman year last year. Then they brought in Chase Lofton, who was a highly recruited tight end out of Nebraska. He's been super impressive this spring. We've heard a lot of great things about him. They brought Marquiston Douglas back, who used to start for Florida State and went to Arizona State last year. He's back. One of those, I don't know what you can call them. I don't know what we call those when the guy leaves.
Those are boomerangs, Ira. Boomerangs.
He's one of those boomerangs. And receiver and tight end, I think, are really talented. But the running game is going to be a big part of what they do also to set up that passing game.
Yeah, and obviously having a dynamic quarterback be able to run the football will help. Last year it was just so, focused on the running backs, and it just couldn't happen. There just was no relief, from twitchiness and things of that nature. I'm going to let Kelly talk about defense because, again, I could care less. Who cares? Any defense, not these guys, just anybody. It just is what it is. Sorry. I do want to dive in a little bit more on Tommy because what you said – I really kind of hit home with me of it feels like this is his offense. He's only been there a couple of months and he already has that. I know there's the, obvious friendship and former being with Malzahn and things of that nature. But to me, he was just put in such a weird box last year that I never thought it was going to work, and it didn't. And, I hate that, but I'm glad he's here. And I think that this is a perfect marriage. And I think they're going to allow him to create and to be an artist and to ad-lib and to be off script. I think they'll encourage that because he can handle it. What have you seen? What have you heard from that? And I guess, from Jordan Travis to DJU to now this, where will that fall in between those guys?
It's funny, the ownership part of it and it being his offense was so apparent as soon as he, basically – he's in the portal, Florida State hires Gus Malzahn. That seems like a natural fit. He comes, commits, all on board. They bring Deuce Robinson in for a visit like 4 or 5 days later. Deuce Robinson played at USC. He's coming in for his visit a few days later. Tommy came back into town just to spend that time with Deuce Robinson, basically to like, hey, you need to be my guy. And as soon as they were talking to Deuce Robinson, Tommy's on the phone with him, telling them what they're going to do. He helped them recruit him and Squirrel White, some of these other transfers they brought in. So it's almost like, he had ownership of this offense before he had even been in a practice or in a meeting at FSU. And so I think they really sold him on that. And he's really embraced it. He's done a ton of, the player run practices. I think he got in the playbook as soon, he ran this offense some at UCF. He actually, started his career at UCF, so he was familiar with the playbook, but he started learning it before he even got here. He's run things on the side, and he's a real competitive kid. I mean, that's one thing that really came off in that scrimmage that we watched on Saturday, that, they blew the whistle dead a couple times when he started to break contain. He one time, man, it looked like a safety had a beat on him in the pocket. He just jukes that dude, and he's off to the races, and they blow the whistle, and he's furious. Like, he's kind of, you can tell he's, like, mad at the coaches. I mean, he wants to compete, and when he ended up running for a touchdown later in that drive, he just slammed the football down, in a scrimmage in April. So, he's in a much better place. Like you said, man, he looked like a fish out of water last year. And listen, man, this offense is going to go probably as far as Tommy Castellanos goes. And he's got to get better. Even the scrimmage we saw, there was a couple of passes where, he'd love to have back, and, he had a tip ball. They ended up getting picked off. And so, it's not like he's been perfect. But, they do have an identity now. I think if you watch them last year, they just had no identity on offense. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting to watch.
Identity is a huge word. I literally had that written down because it felt like there wasn't identity last year. Let's give Tommy some credit too. I mean, he had BC ranked in September last year, obviously because of the Florida State win, but and then the Missouri game, it just felt like they didn't let him do anything. So obviously here he is now at Florida State. Let's talk some defense here. Tony White, new DC. It's so funny, Ira, because We were just recapping Clemson's spring game, and they have a new defensive coordinator. And I feel like when there's a new DC, the eval out of spring is, man, they're tackling better. Like every time, that's what we hear. So is that true? And what else have you seen from Tony White?
Yeah, listen, and Florida State had a long way to go in that area, so there was plenty of room for improvement. And yeah, you're right; it's the same thing. It's like, whenever new strength coach is hired, people talk about how much harder everybody's working, and that's just kind of the cycle we live in this business. But yeah, and I think the biggest thing Tony White's going to bring, there's been a lot of talk about his scheme. He ran it at Syracuse. It's kind of the Rocky Long scheme. He ran it, at Nebraska as well, 3-3-5. But they will play some 4-down linemen. Some FSU fans get nervous about the 3-3-5, so they're quick to point out they will run a 4-man front, and they are committed to stop the run, and it's a very versatile defense in the sense that I think the impression I get is it's very much built for schools that maybe don't have Clemson's defensive talent or
Correct.
Alabama's or Georgia's defensive talent. It's
Right.
You may have some undersized defensive linemen, so you got to figure out ways to use them. You may have some maybe you don't have the most athletic linebackers, so you got to figure out ways to move guys around and kind of confuse the defense. And so I think Florida State's got pretty good talent on that side of the ball. I think they've recruited pretty well there, and they've got some nice transfers this offseason. But I think the unpredictability of it is something that has people excited. Adam Fuller was very much a keep everything in front of you, not get beat over the top. That was kind of their defensive approach. And then last year when they missed a lot of tackles, they did have problems with tackling in the open field. They were not very physical. They didn't cause any turnovers. I think they caused 6 turnovers all season. It was just abysmal. Then it looked so much worse because now you can't get off the field because you're not very aggressive and you're giving up these extended drives and still giving up a ton of points. So I think it's going to be a much different scheme, but I think the biggest thing Tony White can bring, if he brings anything to this defense, it will be getting them to play hard, to play physical, to hit with, just aggression. And I thought that was just lacking greatly last year.
Yeah.
And so if they do those things, I think they'll probably give up some plays because they are going to be aggressive and blitz from different angles. But I do think if they create some turnovers, I think FSU fans will be really happy because that really was lacking last year.
Can't wait to see it, man. Thank you so much for the insight, Ira. This was awesome.
Thanks, guys.
And Florida State fans, let's get excited. All right, let's go. Let's get back. Okay, we'll make it happen. Ira, you're the best, brother. Great to see you as always. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. I can't wait to watch that Tommy interview. Thanks for having me on.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have Energy Smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Tommy Castellanos, brother, great to see you. We got some similar colors, actually, funny enough. Different logo. Similar colors, different logo. It is great to see you, man. I was just kind of telling you before we hit record here that once you jumped in, I was like, please, Florida State, make the call immediately. And here we are. They got you. They figured it out. I want to hear about, that process, man. You got in the portal. And here we go, recruiting all over again.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of shocking, especially after everything that happened. And then like school was still calling and, trying to get me to, come to their school and come play for them. But Auburn was a school that got me, in the portal, that had me really locked on them, to be honest. And then when I got in, it was kind of crazy. But and I had visits just lined up, you know what I'm saying? But Gus Malzahn gave me a call, man, and there's no way I can say no. There's no way I can say no.
Wow. I mean, that's so interesting to me, Tommy. We've talked with a few guys about getting in the portal because the portal it didn't exist back in me and Mac's day, okay? So when you enter your name, does your phone, because your number's in there, right? So does your phone just blow up? Like, what is that like?
Well, I guess it just depends on who you are, but it definitely just, it goes nonstop until I guess you choose a school.
Yeah, you make that decision.
Wild.
I have to think you say it depends who you are.
That's
there's
funny.
some people, man, and this is guys, girls, everybody. There's not a ton of social awareness. They jump in that thing and it's like, all right, now what?
Yeah. Now
What
you
do
know what
we
I'm
do?
saying?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I do, and it seems really scary. So here you are though. You're with the Noles and New Beginnings, and man, what an opportunity to lead
So,
such a historic program and some really interesting guys. And we have to think back to a couple of years ago, Jordan Travis and the playmaker that he was. That has to be super enticing. On top of what you said about Coach Gus Malzahn, I know you guys very familiar
yes, sir.
with each other. But maybe tell me a little bit more of that. Like, what did you envision, or what was what is the dream now that you're with the Noles here?
I mean, right now I've just been blocking out all the noise. Last year they didn't have the season they wanted to have, but they just, or 2 years ago, both, last year and the year before that, they didn't have
Yeah,
the year they
the
wanted to have.
finish.
So
Yeah, sure.
I just think everybody's been caught up on those moments. And, for me this year, my job here is to just get them back to where, that fan base used to seeing, get Florida State football back to being Florida State football. You know what I'm saying? Get it back to the standard
Hmm.
and get it back to that level that everybody's used to seeing. So that's the only thing I'm focused on this year is trying to get back to the standard, of the, Seminole way.
Tommy, I remember we were talking to you last time you were on a podcast, and I believe we got into this about you're a Florida kid.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think Florida State was at least one of your
Yeah.
dream schools, but maybe they didn't want you to play quarterback at the time. So
Yes.
did it feel very full circle for you? Like what's that feeling like?
It definitely did. But it was kind of crazy because like, it was my dream school coming out, growing up, stuff like that, family went here and stuff like that. And then just being able to, have the opportunity to, be the guy here and, it's a big deal. So it's been crazy, man. I just been thanking God, to be honest. I was just telling somebody the other day, like I cried just thinking about it, man. Like this
Wow.
is a big deal that, me being your quarterback for Florida State, I still don't, sometimes don't think it's, think it's real or, think it's a dream, but it's a dream come true for sure. God
That's
has put me
amazing.
in place, man,
Yeah.
to accomplish every goal and dream that I ever asked him for. He just put me in place. Now it's up to me to, go meet him halfway and, get it done. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what this year brings for sure.
That is super cool to hear that, man, because I think that there is this kind of belief that the portal is so transactional and it's just the highest bidder and things of that
Yeah.
nature. But for you to sit here and say like this is my dream school, this is
Yeah.
a once in a lifetime opportunity that
Yes,
I
sir.
got to go here and to be the guy and
Yeah.
what that means for you and every workout, every film session, every
Yes, sir.
play. Like you're just going to be able to take it so much farther.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's
that's
amazing,
incredible.
man.
I mean, it's really cool to see and to hear. You don't hear that much anymore. I end up at my dream school, that kind of thing.
Nah, yeah.
Tommy, okay, you mentioned your family. How excited was your family that you were
Uh,
heading to
everybody
Tallahassee?
was everybody was excited. I have family in South Florida, Miami. I got some people in South Georgia that's real close, to the Florida
Mhm.
borderline and stuff like that. So I'm 2 hours away from home. South Georgia. I'm close to South Florida. So now we can have family reunions at every game
Oh
and stuff
man.
like that. It's gonna be crazy.
That's awesome. I love that, man. I know how important that is, right? Like,
No,
my
it's definitely
parents,
important when your family is at every
yeah,
game and your
right.
mom and your siblings are able to watch you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. You get to turn into a superhero out there,
Oh, no,
man.
for
And
sure.
that was something that I was so grateful for. My parents making every game and grandparents and other family
Sure.
members. Like it does do something to you. You look up in the crowd and you see
No,
them
so
right there. So I'm excited for you. Can't wait for you to experience that each and every day. Let's talk a little spring ball, man, because you guys are in the thick of it. You're going through it. What have been, I guess, some of your goals, man, just going into this season? I know you're in a new place and there's things that come with that, but just your development, as a quarterback and as a leader, what have you tried to really accomplish this spring?
I mean, just by talking to Coach Norvell and Coach Gus Malzahn, they just been installed in my head. Just be you. Just be the best you can be every single day, and the team will follow along and attach. You know what I'm saying? So right now, I've just been trying to be the best me I can be, and just try to lead this team and win the guys over, and just try to earn that faith and that respect and that trust. And a lot of people don't know what leadership really means, especially out of quarterback. Like it's being a servant and just putting them before me or putting other people before myself, and just trying to like build that relationship and those bonds where like we get on that field on Saturday, they are gonna like, I won't say be sad or be mad that they let me down, but like that's how it should be. Like they shouldn't want to let me down or anything like that. So I'm trying my best to just earn those guys' trust and get that faith and them to, have faith in me and stuff like that. So really just trying to be the best me I can be, and just, it's the best me is crazy. So if I can just be consistent being the best me, I think, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, for sure. And Tommy, I know there's a lot of Florida State fans listening, so they'd love to hear some of those guys that have maybe stood out
Yeah.
for you. I know it's just spring ball and all
Yeah,
that,
for
but
sure.
give me a few playmakers that have stood out that you've liked playing with.
Oh, by far, Deuce Robinson, Squirrel White, Javen Boggs, Hakeem, even some young guys, Elijah Moore. I think our tight end room is one of the best,
Mm-hmm.
groups on the team. Like, we have some real deal tight ends and I'm not gonna lie, I think we have a really good team. By far, this is the best team that I've ever been on.
Wow.
By far.
Just like talent. Yeah. Wow.
Talent, skill level. Just from a whole like team standpoint, it's like by far the best team that I've ever been on. Now it's just about gelling together, building that foundation, and see how we can come together and play for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have the best talent in the world and stuff like that, but it's not about X's and O's and stuff like that. It's about, will you go out there and lay it on the line for me every single play?
Right.
And that's right now what we're installing, competing and battling, trying to trust each other and build those bonds and relationships on and off the field.
I love that. I kind of want to circle back here for a second, because you said something that was really interesting to me, and handle it and speak on it however you want. But you said they're encouraging me to be me. It felt like last year there was some moments, and maybe a lot of moments, where you were encouraged to play a certain way, and maybe that wasn't you, and maybe that wasn't to your best strengths.
Yes, sir.
Now that you're with Coach Norvell, you're with Gus Malzahn, how freeing, how exciting is that they are encouraging you to be the playmaker, the artist, that you can be on a football field?
I mean, just being at Boston College, that place is very different. And I just feel like there's no dog leash on there's no leash on me. Like, it's just go, like you're taking a dog to the park and just go be free, and I love that. Like, I have the keys to do whatever I want, whenever I need to, and be able to just showcase and be Houdini or be whoever, what I'm saying, whatever I need to be, whenever it's time to be that, what I'm saying? So I feel so free and just so happy now that I'm able to, just go do what I do and, be me.
Because it probably, KG, not to interrupt, but it almost feels like there was so much thinking of, I have to do this, I have to do it, instead of just reacting and playing and do what you've done since you were 5 years old. You know what I mean? And I, for one, am such a fan and excited to see you get back to that. And I hope it's at the highest level and we get to see all kinds of fireworks, but it just, I don't know. I know that where you are now, that is going to be so encouraged and exciting, and just KG, something that they expect, honestly.
Well, okay, speaking of that, you still had some moments last year where you were you, specifically in Doak Campbell. If we think back to that situation, I know you're excited to play in Doak Campbell. Do any of your current teammates ever say, man, like, what, did you have to do that to us last year? Like, does that game ever come up?
Not anymore, but for sure. When I first got there, it was definitely some nonsense in the locker room and stuff like that. But I think they're excited to have me, and they know what they have, and they know what I'm capable of doing. They've seen it twice with their own eyes. So it's there. I just got to continue to install that in their head and continue to build that trust factor. Yeah. But they know what they have.
And
for sure.
Yeah, well, they've seen it. And building off of that, I mean, you've only played in Doak Campbell as an opponent. Yeah. So how excited are you for that experience as a Simmer?
In a brand new stadium, freshly renovated, unbelievable.
In front of a new stadium, new facility, in front of 80, 70,000. It's gonna, every home game, hearing that war chant, it's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be. Hey, I already got the Chief stripes or the Indian stripes on my face every game. Right. It's going to look even more crazy. I can't wait to get a picture beside that horse and throw that up on Instagram. I can't wait to get a picture with the guy on the horse, with the spear, with the, whatever. Yeah, hey, I can't wait for that moment right there.
Come on. Chief Osceola and Tommy Touchdowns hanging out with Renegade in the end zone. You know what you need to do, bro? This is probably highly unencouraged. I'm going to get in trouble for saying it. You need to, like, jump on Renegade after a touchdown and ride it up and down the end zone.
I don't think Coach Norvell is going to love that.
He's going to be like, whoa, chill out.
Trying to get me in trouble, man.
I know, bro. But hey, legends never die. Legends never die.
Hey, it'll be crazy.
Whatever
Especially
it
after
takes.
August 30th.
Yeah, facts. Big facts.
That'll be crazy.
We'll have to get you back on to talk about that. I don't want to bring that up quite yet, but that's going to be something
Yeah.
crazy.
No, for sure.
Let's talk about Coach Norvell a little bit, man, because he to me is just like a guy you want to play for. The
Yes, sir.
energy, the passion, and there were a couple of years where you didn't really know that because we didn't get to know him as well. But now that we have,
Yes,
I
sir.
have no question how much he loves his players, loves that university, loves what he does. What is that like to be around a guy like him?
I'm not gonna lie, it's so crazy because like as a head coach, you don't get many head coaches like that. He's actually like he's real. Like when you go and visit and stuff like that, people lay out the red carpet. He's like, oh, okay. When you get there, they switch up or they change. But he's the same person every day. Like it's almost like I really can't even explain it. Like because people don't even think it's real. Like recruits come on visits and like people come through that building. I'm like, who is that making all that noise? Or who's that running 100,000, 100 miles per hour? And that's him. Like he's flying around. He's speaking to everybody. Like he's definitely somebody that I dreamed of playing for. Like just a head coach with the type of energy and intensity that he brings, just through the building and stuff like that. Like he it's crazy. I'm not gonna lie. He had me laughing like every day, like every day. He's definitely somebody that I definitely dreamed of playing for. Like just his intensity, his energy that he brings every single day. There's no bad days. I've never seen him with a frown on his face. No matter what he's probably, I know like everybody go through stuff. So I know he's probably going through some, just personally anything like that. But he will never see it. He'll never show it. Every day he's coming in that building and with high intensity, high energy. He's smiling, he's laughing. He's trying to get the best out of us every single day.
That's pretty consistent from what we've heard about Coach Norvell. And of course, getting to know him, he seems like he is that we hear that every time, Mac. He's the same every day. We
Right.
literally have heard that.
Yeah.
Which you love. That's what you
multiple
need.
places. Yeah.
This is football is hard. Winning
No,
is
yeah.
harder. And if you've got a guy that's a roller coaster, it's
No,
nearly
yeah.
impossible. So that is great to hear. And you're right, KG. Everybody we talk to, former, current, that's what they say as well.
Yeah. Tommy, last one for me. I know it's so early. It's only April. I get it. But for you, whether personally or for the team, like what would be a successful 2025 season in Tallahassee in your mind?
A successful 2025 season.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I ain't gonna lie. I've been in this predicament before when I want to say this, say that, but like right now, only thing I can tell you is just watch.
Come on.
Oh,
Just watch.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay.
I
The
love
only
that.
thing I can say is just watch. I
Yeah.
think I like me personally. I think it's gonna be special, like just by me and what they've done with this team and surrounding me by the amount of guys and talent and weapons that I have and up front, and then defensively, I'm telling you, it's by far the best team. Like I've went to war and toe to toe with so many teams. Sometimes I felt I won't say by myself, but it was
Is what it is.
But
Yeah.
now I feel like I have guys that are around me that's willing to, step up and do the same thing that I'm willing to do. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be special. And the only thing I can say is just watch.
Yeah. You got
That's
some
a great
firepower.
answer.
You got some firepower, which is
sure.
going to be fun. It's going to be fun to
Sure.
see how
There's
you
no way you're
orchestrate
gonna be
it.
able to stop me.
Yeah.
This guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is gonna
let's
be-
see it. It'll be
it's
on
gonna
full
be
display.
crazy.
It'll be on full display. Tommy, it is great to see you. We're very excited for the season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, as you are alluding to, and we'll certainly get you back on soon, man. Grateful for your time. Great seeing you.
Sure. Thank you guys.